Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so kindly for joining us. Welcome to Green Apple Books on the Park. My name is Barth Johnson. I'm the event coordinator for Green Apple, and tonight I am very excited to welcome. This is the launch event. This is the launch event for Front Street, Resistance and Rebirth in the Tent Cities of Techlandia. Let's give a hand for Front Street. We are joined tonight by Front Street's author, Brian Barth. He is just to my right. Let's give a hand for Brian as well. And we are joined by members of Wood Street Commons, John Janosco, Leger Harper, and Monte Ford. Let's give a hand for all of them.
It's a very special evening. Oh, yeah, of course, because, couldn't go right.
Mercury's retrograde.
Couldn't go right, it's okay. So what I'm going to do is figure that out, but project in the meantime. Can you hear me in the back? Fabulous. So what counts is that you hear these folks, and they have mics, and I'm positive they work, so it's okay. So what we're going to do, and Brian, you can grab that one, that other working mic too, should you need. But in the meantime, I'm also going to introduce our moderator tonight, Nuala Bishari. Let's give a hand for Nuala as well. Thank you so much. This event is presented not only here at Green Apple, but presented in proud partnership with the Coalition on Homelessness, as well as Miracle Messages and Wood Street Commons. Let's give it up for our three co-presenters for this event. Thank you. I'm very proud to share this evening that proceeds from tonight are going to go to benefit Wood Street Commons. So if you donated with your RSVP, thank you so much. That is going directly to them. And that's right, you can give it up to them. And additionally, 10% of every copy that we sell of Front Street tonight will also go to Wood Street Commons. So if you're on the fence about purchasing a book, that should tip you over to the other side of the fence. Think about it. Why not? If you are able, we always appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us here in person and also online. Hello, online audience. We have a little camera over there if you are wondering what I am waving to. We open each of our events with a land acknowledgement, and so I would like to let you know that we are operating on unceded Ramaytush Ohlone land. We think that acknowledgement requires action, and so we encourage you to donate either your time or monetary means to an Indigenous organization each time you hear a land acknowledgement. We have details about the Ramaytush Ohlone Land Trust at the back desk. That is but one way to participate in this project of rematriation, so that is an entryway for you if you are interested there. Very brief business before I let these folks take over. Now's a good time to silence your cell phones if you have not already. I would encourage you not to take a call while you're sitting in the audience. So if you want to step out and do that, you are welcome. Please do check out our full event calendar online at greenapplebooks.com. We have a really great season that is coming to a close soon as the year ends, including the event that you are currently attending. So if this is of interest to you, check out what else we have coming up. If you are able, please do buy books. Please do buy books from us, the bookstore that you are in right now. We always appreciate it. If you've been here before, you've certainly heard me say that when you buy books from us, not only do you support us as an independent bookstore, you support the writers who put so much work into making these books, and then you get to have a book, which might be the best part. So if you are able, we always appreciate it. Thank you so kindly. So I'm going to go ahead, and I have very brief biographical info for Brian and Nuala, and then I am going to let Brian introduce the rest of our panel tonight. So first, Nuala Bishari is an investigative journalist and opinion columnist with more than 12 years of reporting experience in the Bay Area. In September, very excitingly, she helped launch Coyote Media Collective, a worker-owned publication that aims to revive the playful, sassy, smart vibes of old alt weeklies. Let's give one more hand for Nuala Bishari. And last but most certainly not least, Brian Barth is an award-winning independent journalist with bylines in The New Yorker, National Geographic, Washington Post, New Republic, and many other publications. Front Street is the reason we are here tonight, and his first book. Let's give one more hand for Brian Barth.
Thank you for being here. I would first like to introduce the folks to my right. Monte Ford, who has become a very good friend through the process of writing this book. Can people hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. LaJay Harper, John Janasco, these folks really inspired this book in so many ways and have become incredible activists and sort of embodied practitioners, I would say, of a new way of thinking about the housing crisis in this country. So thank you all for being here. This book, everybody wants to know what's the solution to homelessness, right? And there are so many solutions. But this book, this 5-year journey to answer that question, how do we do this? For me, it really distilled down into relationships, and there's so much that I could say about that. But I think if homelessness is a result of many broken relationships, whether familial, within communities, between individuals, communities, and the society in which they are embedded in. There's economic relationships, there's so many relationships. But I focus on relationships in the book because I think it takes that conversation about homelessness out of this idea that we're waiting on the government to fix it, and puts it kind of into our own selves and our own minds and bodies and agency. And so, the first step for me as a journalist in writing this book was forming relationships with unhoused people, to understand them and to be able to share their stories with you all. And I acknowledge that that's not a simple thing. Like that for a lot of people is a very daunting idea. There is fear, of what's on the other side of the tarp and the tent wall, and it's this sort of invisible veil that I think separates us unnecessarily. So I was going to read a short section of the book that from my very first days on this path to befriend and get to know the unhoused communities of the Bay Area, when I was still very much in that place of confronting what to me was the unknown, and there was an element of fear with that. And I think stepping out of that comfort zone is one of the first and most important steps to what is the solution. So it's kind of hard to hold the book and the microphone at the same time. So this is from the very beginning of the book. This is kind of when it all started. I had just been a few days into really getting to know one unhoused community down in Cupertino. On an autumn day in the worst year of my life, Kent, the leader of Wolf Camp, walks his bike across the parking lot of my apartment complex. He wears a dress shirt, as he does every day, completely unbuttoned, as it always is. His hairless chest, tanned and muscular, glints in the light. Lost in the music pumping from the earmuff-style headphones that wrap around his graying head, this slight sprite of a man glides into my field of vision like a character entering a play from stage left. A dystopic drama of greed, heartbreak, big data, little men, sex, drugs, and the quest for the perfect Instagram image. A tragic farce in which I, too, am a character. It is, of course, set in Silicon Valley, where Kent grew up in a well-to-do family and where he now pitches his tent. He has been homeless, the politically correct unhoused does not yet roll off my tongue, for the past 9 of his 58 years. It is on the basis of Kent's unbuttoned shirt that I recognize him, as his face is covered in a mask, and not of the pandemic kind. He's wearing a black and white harlequinesque piece, a ghoulish guise with sad, sinuous streaks falling from the eyes, like a monster who is not a monster, but a sensitive, tortured soul trapped behind an ugly image formed by the prejudices of its beholders. It's a variation of a Guy Fawkes mask, which has roots in a 17th century plot to blow up London's House of Lords, and has more recently become a symbol of anti-establishment movements in places like Zuccotti Park and Tahrir Square. On the traditional Guy Fawkes mask, the corners of the mouth twist up into a devious smile. Kent's mask just looks bleak. He is not plotting to overthrow anything. It is he who has been overthrown. His current occupation, rebuilding his sense of self-worth from scratch. Perhaps the mask is appropriate attire for the job. However, when you see a guy walking 20 feet from you in such a mask as you're about to get in your car in a suburban parking lot on a weekday afternoon, your first thought is, what the fuck? A shriek forms in my throat but does not come out. I look around to see if there are any children about who should be ushered away from this person. When I realize it's Kent, I relax, but only a little. Homeless people, I mean unhoused individuals, have always made me nervous, but I felt at ease with Kent. Now I'm not so sure. He's making a statement about income inequality, I tell myself. Then, finally, I remember that it's Halloween, and I relax a lot more. So, yeah, there's the appearance, and then there's what's behind the mask, you know, and what's behind the tarps and the tents. And what I found was so rich and meaningful that I feel like it's the basis of a new way of being together, being in community, being in the world, a new social contract, reorganizing our economic relationships to land, to each other. And that was not what I was expecting to find at all. I was expecting the sob story that we've been fed, you know, in the media. But I found incredibly vibrant communities and people that inspired me and moved me to tears and made me a better person. And so one of those communities was Wood Street in Oakland, where I ended up spending a lot of time and also making a film about, because a book wasn't enough. It just inspired me that much. So I will read a very short section that sort of, I think, introduces Wood Street. I met Monte on a July morning at his camp in Oakland, which stretched for a mile along Wood Street and bulged 100 yards back from the curb beneath a tangle of overpasses known as the MacArthur Maze. It was infamous among California's mega camps, a place news reports reference Mad Max to describe. Mountains of junk, hard-looking dudes ambling about, and an incredible number of burnt-out cars. A Hollywood rendering of the apocalypse is an apt, if uncreative, means to explain Wood Street's outer appearance. But the news reports miss the seeds of Eden hiding in the dystopia, and the tender hearts residing in the hard-looking dudes. The roughly 300 residents of the camp referred to the place, their home, as Wood Street Commons. I walked through the gates of Wood Street Commons to find a small outdoor stage where Monte sat in a canvas director's chair, in a loose-fitting leather jacket, pink shirt, blue tie, and cowboy boots. Gathered around him was an assortment of fellow residents, house friends of the camp, and a handful of city officials who looked rather uncomfortable. Several members of the media were present. A PA sat near the edge of the stage. Soft drinks and snacks were spread on a table as folks lounged about on couches waiting for the event to begin. The stage was backed with walls made from pallets, an IKEA bed frame, and other scavenged material. Shade came courtesy of white fabric strung loosely between crooked wooden poles, along with a forest green cafe umbrella with Starbucks printed on it in white letters. I spotted several hypodermic needles on the ground, along with a dead rat. Propped on a table was a board displaying architectural plans that illustrated how the dystopia might be reorganized a bit to reveal the jewels within. The plans showed the locations of individual homesteads as well as community facilities, including a flea market, bike repair shop, office space, and the Moose Pit Cafe, located next to a shed belonging to a resident named Moose. All of this and more already existed, though very informally and largely obscured by the cluttered aesthetics of the place. Meals for 50 plus were prepared daily over a large fire pit. An adjacent pantry stocked dried goods and fresh fruits and vegetables, free for whoever needed them. Donated supplies such as clothes and toiletries were generally available. Solar panels had begun to replace the power cords that pirated energy from nearby streetlights. Communal water tanks, filled by a volunteer with a water truck, had relieved the need to tap illicitly into city supplies. A pair of steel shipping containers provided lockable storage, a critical step to stability, and a place where people were afraid to leave their possessions unattended for fear they would be pilfered. Security cameras and lighting had been installed in some corners of the camp. If a female resident needed an escort back to her place at night, a call went out on the camp's walkie-talkie network. To accommodate their many Zoom calls with the media, NGOs, and government officials, they built an outdoor conference room that included an orange and blue wall of padded fabric that made for a professional-looking video backdrop. The purpose of the event was to convince the city officials, who wanted to tear the camp down, to support the residents in developing the Wood Street Commons vision instead. The city had plans for 170 units of so-called affordable housing on the portion of the camp where we gathered, just a few steps away from Monte's handcrafted home, which had a small putting green in the yard and a mailbox that said 1707 Wood Street out front. 7 units of the city's proposed development were designated for homeless veterans and 6 for young adults exiting foster care. The rest were designated for households making 60 to 120% of Oakland's median income, which translates to an annual salary of roughly $75,000 to $150,000. The city's plans for the camp's residents was to move them into cubicle-like tiny homes inside a fenced lot down the street where they would be lorded over by security guards and subject to a litany of rules governing their lives. The meeting was facilitated by Leah, a massage therapist who volunteered at the camp and could sometimes be found kneading her elbows into residents' backs. After she laid out the ground rules and time limits for each speaker, Brian Warwick, a housing coordinator with the city, explained that the $100 million development had been held up for 18 months because of the current situation with the site. Latonda Simmons, the assistant city administrator, struck a more conciliatory tone. "I want to recognize that everybody is frustrated with the city," she said, "and it's one of the reasons that we are here." The residents felt that this and all the shelter options promoted by the city had the same underlying problem. They were based on a way of thinking that did not reflect the values and needs, or even the basic dignity, of the people they were designed to shelter. The residents weren't interested in submitting to the city's shelters and their wardens. They viewed this as a downgrade from their current living situation. "We're people, right? I mean, we really are," said Monte to the officials. The city's plan for the community felt like being forced into a category that does not fit for us, he continued. "This," he said, gesturing at the makeshift village that sprawled out from the stage, "is our category." Monte, a veteran, explained to the crowd that he once tried a housing program for unhoused veterans and it nearly killed him. He said the freedom and autonomy of his current living situation were essential to his mental health. "I'm claustrophobic," he said. "Don't put me in a box. I might hang myself." He was not exaggerating.
Thank you. I'm so glad you read that section because that was one of my favorites in the book, even though it's so infuriating at the same time. So, you know, in this book, you talked a lot, Brian, about these kind of preconceived notions that you had about homelessness that were disrupted during this reporting. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. What did you imagine going into it, and what did you discover that took you by surprise?
Yeah, like I said, all I knew was what I'd heard in the media and heard from other people, which was not at all the real situation. I was expecting nothing but suffering and misery, really, and people that weren't able, for whatever reason, to help themselves. And I certainly understood the sort of economic justice side of it, but I did not understand the personal side of it and what people's real needs are, what their real realities are, and what their dreams are, and their aspirations, and their beliefs, their values. So that was the part that was unexpected and made the book what it was.
Great, thank you. You discussed the challenges of what you call poverty media, which I think is a really interesting concept. What are some of the current trends that you see in reporting on homelessness? I'd love to hear some of those and open it up to the group as well.
Yeah, I think it's been the same story playing like a broken record for a very long time, which is, we need to build more housing, and we need to have more mental health services and addiction treatment services, and that's somehow going to fix it. And we've been saying that for how many decades, generations. And yes, I'm not against more of those things, but there's this whole other side that we're not really hearing about that I think the media has really failed us with, and that is just like, well, what are these communities really like? Like what I said, what do they need? What do they want? What are their dreams? What do they think the solution is? And so I think that's slowly getting a little better. And one of the huge blind spots in the media, which is a huge subject of this book, is, the main thing that we do with unhoused communities, which is we forcibly remove them from wherever they are, and we push them around the city, thinking that is going to do what, I don't know, but the media never really interrogated that, and I think that they are starting to recently, in the last year, much more. So hopefully we can make that the focus moving forward.
Well, moving forward, we're not relying on them to cover our story at all. We have people like Core Magazine, we have Free Spirit newspapers, we have all other independent agencies that are on board with hearing our real story and what our needs might be.
And as far as the how the media portrays us, what they need to do is stop the sweeps. Like Brian says, they need to stop destroying people's lives. They need to stop trying to kill us by trying to push us around and get rid of everything that we own. And I think that's one of the major arms of Wood Street Commons as it is now, the 501c3, is that we are also advocacy and making sure that it's our voice that's at the table when they are making these solutions. And we also are working on changing the narrative. Like there's a lot of people, the media portrays us all to be addicts or criminals or lazy and all that. But in actuality, there's a lot of people that can't even afford to live in California. I was watching the movie that, they wrote about, am I talking too long? Okay, well, just shut me up, okay, because I could talk. The average, minimum wage for a person in the Bay Area still can't even afford to live inside whatever the cost of living is and how much it is to rent a normal house. And so that's not a lazy person. That's not a drug addict. That's just people in general. And that's what the media really needs to focus on and stop trying to make us the bottom of the bottom, and I thank the people that came in to actually get to know us, because they forget sometimes. Even with the language they use, sweeping us, trash, and they're very dehumanizing when they're talking about the unhoused population. They try to make us like we didn't grow, like we weren't born and raised in Oakland or the Bay Area, and we were, so there's all these different types of narratives that we're always having to fight against, and we are grateful. Go ahead and talk.
I think we have to remember that the media is not for us. Their job is not to uplift the unhoused. They have their own agenda, and I think the people that control their agenda are not people that necessarily, want to solve homelessness. They just want to make money off of it. So when it comes to like the big media and stuff, they're not out there in our favor. So we have to rely on the smaller media outlets, like Monty said, Work People's magazine and Street Spirit and other smaller independent ones out there that do have our best interest at heart when it comes to putting our narrative out there. Like what Jay was saying, with Street Commons, our goal is to change the narrative, to show people that, homeless people aren't lazy and that we could actually do things on our own. And that's exactly what Wood Street did. We did things on our own for ourselves.
So to go off that point a little bit, because I think that's such an important part of Wood Street and of this book is about community, right? Is like what happens in these communities and how these relationships are built. What did you find, Brian, in reporting on these 3 different communities around the Bay? Did you notice a lot of differences there? Were there any common themes that you came across?
Yeah, obviously there's differences. What I would say I found was that Wood Street had taken this vision maybe farther than some. But the seeds of that vision were in every conversation I had with an unhoused person, really. And, some had more opportunity to develop that. A big part of why Wood Street was able to do that is because it lasted for a number of years. It was not swept as quickly as most are. It was eventually, but something was built there that has now had a life beyond it, thankfully, beyond the physical place.
I think it's really difficult to sum up Wood Street. I only spent a little bit of time there, but there's no way to put into words completely what was happening there. How do you describe the Wood Street community when people ask you what it was like? Can you?
Yeah, wow. There's so much you can say great about it. Most people dwell off of some negative other shit, sorry. But it's wow. It was my home. It's my family. It's the people you see sitting here, and there's so many more people out there. It gave me life again. Gave me a purpose. I don't know. It was just a wonderful, magical place. It still is because it's still carried in all of our hearts, our souls, and every message.
They could kick us off of Wood Street, but they can't take the Wood Street out of us. For me, once some people, shout out So Chill, E-Fam in the building. Once people came down and actually listened to us, that really empowered us for our own self-determination. So for me, Wood Street was remembering who I am again, that I actually have a voice, that I could speak up for myself, and that we don't have to depend on the city for shit, we could do it ourselves. We had our community, we had our kitchen and our cob on wood down there, and then we had Wood Street Commons in the front, and we did our own celebrations and we did our own cleanups, and it was look what we could do by ourselves. We're not asking y'all for no handout. We don't want your peanut butter and jellies. You know what I'm saying? Thanks to Good Eggs, we were cooking New York steaks down there and salmon and shit. So, it was, and for me being a single woman out there, it was also where I felt protected and I didn't feel like I was being judged by anybody. And I was just able to be. And, we're still continuing to do this work, and we have to keep going for our people. We have to be still being self-determined and fighting for our folks, because even though they're placing people in housing, like, people are still very much isolated. And so by us continuing this work of community is, they'll never kill Wood Street, and regardless of the place, we're still very much standing.
For me, it's a new lease of life. Wood Street came when I really needed it. I was at the bottom of my pit. I was trying to commit suicide, and this beautiful community just organically happened, and the family is what's held me. Not to mention that we've never had any ODs on our property at 1707. We had 0 security guards at 1707 Wood Street. We had no police officers there called for any incidences that occurred at 1707 Wood Street. So it's Wood Street has become my family. It still is my family. It's the reason why I'm here.
A two-part question. Brian, I know this book was really a long time in process. How did you decide when to end it? Because all of these stories continue. What was the reason that you ended the book in the moment that you did?
Yeah, I didn't really end it because now I'm making a film. I couldn't end it. I had to keep going, and that's why we're doing this book tour. I think if I had written another book, I would do a few book events and then just call it good. But really, the book events, we're going to 20 plus cities over the coming months, is just to really nurture a movement, and I see it as a social movement, really, coming from the camps themselves. It has been there all along, just the rest of the world didn't know much about it. And so to try to bring that out into the rest of the world, that's my goal. So yeah, I don't really know how to answer that question because it was very hard. Yeah, and Wood Street is by no means, the only community in here. A huge chunk of the book is about Homefulness, Poor Magazine, and Tiny, who's sitting right here, who does an incredible service to humanity with many things, but something called People School, which I participated in, wrote about in the book, and was, taking all these ideas to a whole nother level. A community, built by unhoused people, not as a camp, but as townhomes, like real houses with permits and certificates of occupancy that cost huge amounts of money and time and labor to do. And Tiny and her Homefulness crew, manifested that, like, just from the unhoused community, and it's really become an institution in Oakland, and now it's spreading into other cities, and it's a way, it's like Wood Street, but with a physical house. So yeah, and I want to acknowledge all the other Wood Street folks here tonight, Jared and Tina and Lydia and Manaz. Thank you guys for coming, as well as some of the volunteers. And this one of the beautiful things about Wood Street, which is also true of many other unhoused communities, but it was a blended housed and unhoused community. There was a lot of housed people that were a huge part of that community, integral to it, and one family, really. And I think that's kind of the message right there.
Great. To stick just with the idea of endings, I know poverty media and mainstream media really parachuted into Wood Street, especially when the eviction was happening. There was a lot of news coverage, local, statewide, national. And then when the eviction was over, the media kind of disappeared. And I think for a lot of people, they imagined that the story ended there, right? That now that it's not being covered anymore, it's almost like these people don't exist. So I wanted to ask you all now what you are doing. What are you doing that is exciting? What is difficult about this transition? And yeah, how are you speaking up for folks?
So we're still working right now currently. We have our outreach every Sunday where we go out to a different encampment on a Sunday and we feed folks. And my brother won't let anything die down. I mean, he's on Instagram like nobody's business. So we are still being our own media.
That was a good segue. So our next big event is our Christmas party. It's free for everybody on December 5th, so please grab a flyer. That's what we do, 3 main events a year. Our bike ride, which we just did our 4th year, 91 miles to Sacramento. Not me. I didn't ride that, but they did. And we do our really big resource fair in May. And this year we had over 30 other organizations come, and we still brought it down to Wood Street. And then, you know, we do our Christmas party, the bike ride, and the resource fair. But like Monte said, every Sunday, like clockwork, we get up and we go out and we go all around. Just because Wood Street isn't there anymore, there's still so many more communities, not encampments, but communities of folks that need our support. And, you know, we also have information here. If you want to donate and support that work, you can. And we're also like still bringing the advocacy work. So we sit on some county committees now. We're making sure that there's no more like solutions made about us without us, because we know best what we need to survive, to transition from being unhoused to housed. And we're just trying to, like, you know, build up our community and support our folks still out there. I said a lot.
Well, there was a lot of, I guess, media around the evictions, and it you know, catapulted us, the name, you know, worldwide. I don't think we're fading away like people might think just because it's not that same type of media around us. We're just doing it a different way right now. It's sort of more even keel, a smooth way. And our name is everywhere, honestly, because of all the people that we run across and, you know, and touch people's lives and stuff. And people talk about us all over the place. And like Monty and Leger were saying, we have these major events that we have every year. We also are out there, you know, every Sunday. And we're just in so many different places, I feel like, right now. And then people from different media outlets still come out and interview us individually and want to know quietly, you know, what we're doing and stuff. So now that we have, Brian has his book coming out, there's some other stuff coming out, documentaries coming out with other people about, you know, people from Wood Street, or just, you know, honing in on individuals because of their sobriety and stuff they've been doing great. Yeah, you gotta mention that. So I don't think we're dying down. We're quietly getting bigger in a different way, in a good way.
Let me just say too that also, like, the love and the self-determination from Wood Street. I mean, recently I was thinking about it today when I was in the shower. I was like, look at us. But when we watched the movie about Camp Resolution, you know, they really like shouted out Wood Street because we were there that first time to help them retake over their lot. And then even with Poor Magazine, when we're down in LA and we're talking to Etna Street, they're like, we saw what was going on the news with Wood Street, and that made us stand up. And so, you know, really like, we out there now. We really out there, you know, and they can't get rid of us.
Yeah. Crushing wheelchairs.
Yes. And I'm sorry, y'all, I like to talk. But I just want to say that, you know, when they did destroy Wood Street and they split us all up, and like John was saying, that was a bittersweet moment for me, because that's when I decided to get off of drugs, and that was almost 2.5 years ago. But I was given the blessing of being one of the Wood Street, you know, leaders that got to move into homefulness. And so I became the 16th resident in rent-free forever housing. And after a 10-year separation from my daughter, she now lives there with me. And because of the blessing of being at homefulness, I could continue to do this work. You know what I mean? Like, I can still give back to my community, be very active in my community, because we don't have to worry about stressing over the lie of rent there. And so, yeah, just really been focused on like bringing more healing and healthy way of living to folks living on the streets. So I just wanted to shout out Homefulness again. It's a really awesome one. We have a school, you know, called Decolonize Academy. We have a radio station. We have goats and chickens in the deep East Oakland. So it's really a beautiful community to live in. And so, yeah, I just want to share that.
Great, thank you. We only have 5 minutes to talk about this really complicated question, so I apologize. But Front Street really places stories of homelessness within the context of this region that is just incredibly wealthy, in large part due to tech. And I feel like there's always this question of how do we reconcile extreme poverty with such affluence? And I don't necessarily have an answer here, but Brian, I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about that tension there and what you encountered in your reporting.
Gosh, that's such a big question. You're right. It's hard to overcome those macroeconomic forces through the powers that be. I think that's why sometimes you just have to build your own thing within it. But still, for real change to happen on a large scale, those macroeconomic forces do need to be, something needs to happen, and policies need to change. Obviously we can tax the rich, and I think we are unfortunately a long way from that here in this part of the world. But it's, even if we're not doing that, if we can at least give directly, as Tiny would say, poverty reparations.
That part.
And, like, this can be like the guy asking for change on the corner, but it can be, as I have done over and over and over for years now, just going into camps, and it's like, what do you need? It's like, if I can spend $100 and like help somebody, out of a crisis, like I do that. Today I was down in San Jose with Rudy, who's one of the other core people in this book, who he was in a very large camp similar to Wood Street that was, repeatedly swept over the last number of years. He managed to hang on to his RV until the last sweep that completely wiped the place out this summer. He was arrested, his RV confiscated with all of his stuff in it. He was left, he had a car still, and he was working for DoorDash to make money and survive with his car. Well, now the car is broken down and he's living in a gas station parking lot by himself in San Jose. And, I went down there today, gave him some money, tried to help him get the car fixed. And, it's heartbreaking to talk to him. He's distraught, crying, he's in crisis. It's literally life or death. And, so I wish he could have been here. He wanted to come, but, so you can donate to Rudy. I was going to try to dial him in on Zoom so he could talk to you guys, but for technological reasons that didn't seem feasible. But I did put his Cash App information on that sign there. And it's like a few $100s can get his car going and allow him to make his own money and rebuild. But, also, like, let's stop taking his stuff, his home, and destroying his community, because he was like doing better and better over a period of years. Like when I first met him, he lived under some tarps, and then he managed to get an RV, and this was much better, and then he managed to get a car, and he was working, and like that years of work gone, and now he's in a gas station parking lot by himself.
Yeah, the Stop the Sweeps narrative is so strong and such an important message. Is there anything else that you at Wood Street Commons are working on in terms of changing policy or educating people that can really make a difference for those who are living outdoors?
Co was in one of these working groups with other advocates. We were working on when Mr. W money was coming, when that was going on, working on them spinning it on new solutions, new ideas, new type of shelter programs. Right now, I think most of us know shelter programs don't have any engagement for the residents there. And so one of the most important things is that you give them something to actually do while you're there. You don't just sit them in a room and just say, wait until hopefully housing comes along. we've been more active, I feel like, Wood Street with being in the, I guess, at the tables, getting into these offices with different city staffers on different departments and stuff, that so many different departments and things that you have to connect the dots with and get everybody, it seems like aligned on the same page and everybody saying yes the same day, and you know, in order for anything to happen and stuff, we're working like that. And then some of us are also on like with the continuum of care in different committees. Jared's on a couple of the committees there. Lachey's on a couple of committees there. Just being at the table. But I just want to remind people also that, like, just having these lived experience people at the table, I want to remind them there's more voices out there. We are not the say all of everything. We're not the ones, you know, that I feel like at this moment, we're not in desperate mode. So it's like, we want more people to go out into the community, more of these city staffers, administrators, whoever, to go out and really like interact with the people that you're making these decisions about, and really feel firsthand like the desperate modes that they're in, car breaking down and stuck at a gas station and stuff and have no way to move it, and being threatened that you're going to get your stuff towed. Yeah, we need people to be more active out there, and like we say, Wood Street Commons, Wood Street, you know, thank God a lot of us are housed right now, but just don't forget about all those other encampments that are out there that need our support. And this is the reason why we're here, is we had so much support from our community. So we need you guys to go give that support to the other unhoused communities out there right now.
Can I say too, also we're working on organizing around this stupid ass encampment abatement policy in Oakland, which is gonna further like just straight up steal people's homes, their vehicles. It's going to, like, the city doesn't have to offer any more services to folks. So that's like congregate shelters or cabin communities. So we've been organizing with that. And we're also working on this whole Good Neighbors program with Care for Communities and Community Ready Corps, doing our own cleanups, not waiting for the city to come do cleanups, but really supporting folks in their communities out there.
Yeah, we're just reaching them where they are, like we needed to be reached where we were. And what do you? It goes that way.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank you for that. Let's open it up to some questions. I'm going to repeat them for the folks on Zoom. Does anyone have a question? Yes.
Yeah, I often see a lot of vitriol against people that are trying to change things, people in the conservative movement. And I was wondering, for example, they talk about the Coalition of Homelessness as though it had a multi-billion-dollar budget. And I was wondering, where does all this vitriol come from, and why are they so, enraged against these organizations that are fairly small and don't have a lot of effect in terms of setting government policy, as we see by the absurd persecution of bad dwellers in San Francisco?
That's a great question. I'll try to sum it up, but I won't do as good a job as you did. So where is all this vitriol coming, especially towards nonprofit organizations that are serving unhoused communities?
Well, first of all, they're pretty much, the city officials are in bed with these larger nonprofit organizations that are not on, they don't have their boots on the ground. Instead of supporting individuals like us. Our organization. We are grassroots. We are boots on the ground. We are right there with the individual that is suffering.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with they don't want to allow small grassroots communities like ourselves, like Wood Street Commons and others, to show people that people can survive outside of the system that's set up that just that kills us and basically we work until we're dead, and I think that's one of the big reasons that we've been showing people homefulness. Nobody there pays any rent. There's a monthly offering that they give, but otherwise that you don't have to ever worry about getting kicked out, or you or your family, your next generation. Wood Street Commons show people a different way of community, a way of living that we should all do, is just supporting each other. It was nothing out of the ordinary, really. We just took the resources and we just allocated them, spread them out, shared them with everybody else. And I think big business and government find that a threat, that if people don't need the system, if you don't need to buy into it, they're going to find a way to destroy you. They're going to put some tag on you and saying that they're bad, they're evil, they're all the other stuff, and add on all these rumors and stuff. But I think it's just they're just scared because we know we can live. We don't have to live that way, and we can do it on our own, basically.
Oh. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
What's up with Street Family?
Yeah.
I just wanted to see how it feels like for all of you to have your stories like in a book and be here talking about them, and like what does that feel like? I know there was a lot of media coverage and stuff throughout all the works, but just taking a moment to celebrate, that your stories are being shared in a different way and on a different kind of platform.
So for the folks on Zoom, the question is, what does it feel like to be featured in this book and to have your stories shared in this way?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I think for me, it feels good to show where we've come since this book, because that we were, like he said, Mad Max out there. You know what I'm saying? We was really out there. But where we are now, but where we are now is really like, look at this glimpse in our lives and look at where we are now and look where we've come from. And it is nice to be honored in that way, and it really we're very grateful and appreciative that folks took the time to actually get to know us, and that's all we've been asking for the whole time is like, come down and see that we speak English and we're not going nowhere, so you might as well get to know us and put a name to the faces.
And for like the largest portion of our work is to change the narrative of what a houseless person looks like. And so for me, this is a cobblestone on the path of changing that vernacular.
Yep. Great, thank you. Question in the back?
Oh no, go ahead.
My question is for you, after this week and where you are right now, you have come a long way. You are sober, and you look amazing and doing amazing work. What's your message to your other unhoused community who go through this trauma of sleep, but don't end up this positive side that you end up on the other side? How can they learn from you, or what can you tell them?
So the question is, what can you share with people now that you have come through your part of this journey, for people who are still outdoors?
This question is rough for me. I'll just put it this way. So last couple of weeks, I needed some time off, and I've been out in the encampments where all my friends are at. And it's hard to go back to them. When we're doing all this great work and we're in these rooms, we're at these tables, we're having these conversations about all this stuff. And I would love to go, and I know I see how the system works, and it's so many hoops you have to jump over, so many hurdles and this and that. And I understand that. I'm getting to understand that more. So when I was out and people are asking me what's going on with some land, or just asking me in general, what's going on, it's so hard for me to be able to explain to people, because they're not in a place where they don't want to hear all these explanations or all the stuff that we have to go through for them. Hopefully, to get stuff done for them, it's hard because I can't just come back and say in a week, you guys are gonna have, or a couple of months, you're gonna have this place where some of you guys will be safe, or we convince them to stop the sweeps for you guys. So at least you guys don't have to worry about that. You know, it's difficult, you know, and I don't really have like advice to give to people out there because they don't want to hear no advice. Like that's not the mode they're in. What I do is I just try to give them support. We try to give them support. Like on Sundays when we go out there and do outreaches and stuff and we talk to people and, you know, listen to what they have to say and just see what, like, if it's just bringing water or like maybe if we got, you know, a couple dollars we can give to a couple of people or just letting them know like we're here for you. I wish we could go back and do more. It bothers me a lot that, you know, and we're doing a lot. I mean, and most of the people out there, they know that, but it's just, it's a difficult situation and stuff, but I try to go out there and find out what it is that I can take back, bring back to working groups, or bring back to people, to talk to them about what more people can do, not just us, but like, you know, the community in general. Like, what can we do as a community to go back and make it a little bit easier for people out there until some of these solutions. And right now, what we're waiting on is Measure W funding to get back to come into a pipeline. That won't happen until around April, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just waiting. This is period where, you know, it's sort of like we're just waiting for that money to come and see what it can do to alleviate some of the pain that people are going through.
And around just me and where I was and where I am now, I realized that my story and my experience is part of my purpose here in life and to lead by example. And so by choosing to detox fully from being an intravenous fentanyl, meth, and heroin addict, cold turkey without any pharmaceuticals, I realized that what I want to do is help other people, not even just get off of drugs or substances, but live a healthier life. So we've been working at with Homefulness. Matter of fact, tomorrow is our monthly healing hub. And with EFAM, we're developing a holistic detox and recovery support service. And also just like reconnecting traditionally to my own spirituality. And in January, I will be taking a spiritual pilgrimage to Nigeria to become an Iyanifa in the Isheshe tradition. So that's the equivalency of a priestess. And with those traditions and those rituals and that learning, bringing that back, because African Americans are disproportionately represented in the unhoused population in Oakland. And for me, it was very key to be connected to a higher power of my indigenous ancestors from the motherland. And I be trying to, like, you know, spread it out to people, but even for me also, it took a minute for me to feel comfortable to go back out into like the war zone. You know, for me, that's how it felt being in recovery, you know, where I put myself through so much trauma, but also very inspiring, like to be able to see my friends and they're like, wow, Leger, like, if y'all, did you put that picture up there? Did you show that picture? Okay, well, y'all seen that picture. I was really out there, you know what I'm saying? But to be able to tell people and answer the questions that I wanted answered at that time. Is it gonna hurt? Am I gonna die? Is it scary? What do I have to, you know, look forward to be able to just tell people like, we can get through this, and not even to force myself in the way that, you know, society wants to force them. So like, you need this with this whole care court shit coming up. You have to do treatment and you have to do it this way. And you gotta listen to Bill and Bob, whoever the fuck they are, you know? And no, like, we can just start with like getting ourselves, you know, proper nutrition, or we can start by just getting a good night's sleep or hydrating ourselves. Like, it doesn't have to be this big ass scary thing, and it doesn't have to be, you know, you said 5 minutes, huh? I'm hella talking. I'm sorry.
I mean, I love all of this.
Okay, but what I just want to say is we could do it without having to get on more drugs like methadone and Suboxones and all that they want to keep us in this space. So yeah, it feels good to be able to bring back my experience to my folks. And You know, I had a vision a long time ago when I was in early recovery. Let me just say this real quick, okay? Don't get mad at me. That I was walking towards like a forest and there was a whole bunch of people behind me and we were like walking together towards freedom. And so I really want to go back and that's where my passion lies with this work when we expand more, is just being that peer support for people.
That question kind of hurts for me because we really don't have the answers. You know, we're still fighting to get these people to see the solutions, to see our solutions. So it hurts to go back to them and be able to, and to have to tell them, I don't know what's going on. Because we really don't know what's going on. I know that we're at the tables, we're discussing it with these individuals, we're pleading to them to hear us, and unfortunately, the cogs in the city moves very slowly. So yeah, that's why we do our outreach, to support, if anything else. At least we can support.
Thank you. Do we have time for another question, or do we? Okay, one more.
I just have a comment.
Okay.
But not really a question. Well, I guess it's a question and a comment. So one is, I'm glad we're able to all be here together in this space. And I went to the wrong Green Apple bookstore, but luckily I know the city. I'm born and raised here, and went through homelessness at the age of 8 years old. And I know this place because when we lived outside, there was this donut shop right up the street here as a kid, and it's 24 hours. So I can't speak all pretty and all like academia right now. What I'll say is that I challenge everybody in this space to understand that we have a crisis and it's a war on the poor. So I ask everybody, what are you doing to combat against the war on the poor? And what I mean by that is, don't be on the conveyor belt and don't be complacent. You got to get in the trenches. If you have race and class privilege, get in the trenches. And it's more than just, having a conversation and getting to know people and check your own biases. I get all that. But it's really getting in the trenches and really doing this work. We have a crisis on our hands, and it takes everybody coming together. That's what Fred Hampton would say, right? It takes the on-house being in solidarity with the housed and working together to make some solid solutions. And it's also about fucking combating against fucking classism. You know, if you're fucking rich, don't be uncomfortable. I was fucking uncomfortable as a poor kid. Okay? So I don't give a fuck about your uncomfortableness. Okay? That's real. And this artwork we're doing is to disturb the comfortable, because art comforts the disturbed. Thank you.
Well said.